Welcome to the Confident Chiropractor podcast. Join our guests as we creatively break down what it takes to build your practice from the inside out. We are raw and unfiltered, with fascinating guests and interesting stories. They share their experiences, achievements, challenges, and successes in family, life, and business.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have our guest today, Dr. Edgar Everett from Evoke Chiropractic Coaching, as well as Proficient Chiropractic, a Logan Chiropractic College graduate. And the best thing that I love so far, and I know we're going to learn some more today, is his wonderful quote that he wants to challenge the status quo and stretch consciousness. So welcome, Dr. Edgar.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, welcome. So I wanted so badly to have one of your beautiful partners and yourself on the show because you guys are doing so many great, amazing things and kind of on the leading edge. I know you guys are St. Louis and Chicago between the partners. So maybe you can explain a little bit of some of the new projects that you guys have going on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. First, thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I think that, like I was mentioning, the opportunity to be able to speak to you and for us to speak to each other is something special because I think we're creating this new thing in chiropractic, this new frontier in chiropractic, and I'm excited about it. And that's kind of where Evoke came from. Evoke has really been about growing chiropractic, simply put. And one of those, the area that has been least explored is really when it comes to minorities in chiropractic. And that was evident once I graduated and I got out and I was in the communities and I was talking about chiropractic and nobody had any idea what I was talking about or what we did or how it worked or that you
They're
could
like, who are you? What
exactly.
How do you help me?
Exactly. What exactly do you do? We got a lot of that, which I felt like for as long as chiropractic has been around 150 years, I feel like it's something that the more Americans, period, especially more minorities should really, really know about and should really be a part of their life. So when we created Evoke, the idea was to help minority chiropractors to become better at what we do. Because the more we can help them, the more people they can help. We figured that was the best way to reach, right? Is to teach. And so that was the genesis. And since then, we've done a couple of things. We've been coaching for a couple of years now, and we really like that, but it was time to grow beyond that. So this year on October 23rd, 24th is our first annual conference. So
nice.
We're very, very excited about that. It's here in St. Louis. And Evoke was originally just coaching. That's really what it was. But we saw that there was more need. So, we've grown from there and we're really, really digging into some other things. One of the things we created was a boot camp to train doctors, right? So it's a quarterly boot camp that we do to train doctors on improving their practice. So that's something we're really excited about because a lot of people can get out and they can get into practice, but to really get it moving, to really get it going, to supercharge it, or to get it to the practice of their dreams, so that they're not only financially but also living the lifestyle that they really want to live. So that's what those boot camps are all about, and we do some other things, adjusting and stuff like that. But the newest and most exciting thing that we have going on is our Evoke Bridge program. In the Evoke Bridge program, we work with a lot of students. The two biggest hurdles that we found to them getting in practice was one, the coaching and the know-how, but also the financial piece, right? Having access to the capital, to be able to open a practice. So that's where the Bridge program comes from. We partner with a new doc or a doc who's already been out and they want to open their own practice. We partner with them over a period of time. We help them to grow and develop that practice, and then it eventually becomes their own. That's another one of those ways we feel like we can really, really, really have an impact.
Wonderful. Now, you mentioned kind of really the big one is the minority aspect in chiropractic already in the leadership. But like, where were you even introduced to it? How did you even consider it as an option for yourself?
Chiropractic? So the funny thing is I was dating someone who was a massage therapist when I was in high school, and she worked in a chiropractor's office. And I visited the chiropractor. I was dropping her off and he came out and he was loading up his car to go on a trip. And I asked him where he was going. And he said, man, I'm going to China for 30 days. In that moment, I said, whatever it is you do for a living, that's what I want to do. That was really my first introduction to chiropractic. I had no idea what it was, how it worked, or anything at the time. But once I heard the word, Then I started to research. And once I
Mm.
researched, I really liked it. And then when I got into undergrad, I did some marketing stuff, worked at the screening booth and all that stuff for a chiropractor in the time where I was going to undergrad. And I fell in love with it, doing that and being in his office and seeing an office where luckily I was exposed to a really, really successful practice. And to see all of these people coming in and out, and everybody was happy to be there.
Yeah.
Everybody was happy to be there, which is something you just do not see in healthcare. You just don't see it, right? Anywhere. Except
Yeah.
for on the wellness side of healthcare. And so when I saw that and when I met those people and saw them getting better, I knew it was the right fit for me.
Beautiful. And so, would you say that as you're going through undergrad, even your classmates and other people that you're studying with, is it something that they were familiar with, or was it still quite relatively unknown?
They were unfamiliar. So with my limited knowledge, I'm educating my college buddies on
Yeah.
what chiropractic is and why I want to be a chiropractor. Because like I said, I'm working for this chiropractor. And like, you're doing what? Working where? So no, I didn't know very many people who even knew at the time who even knew what chiropractic was.
Yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine.
Which I didn't do a very good
Amazing.
job of explaining.
So let's backtrack a moment. Being new to the chiropractic space, how would you even have chosen Logan? I mean, it's an amazing school, but it's not necessarily one if you're unfamiliar with chiropractic, you would know.
I'm from St. Louis.
Oh, okay. Well, that's easy.
Yeah, that's really what it was. So I actually visited Logan while I was in high school. Yeah,
Okay.
I visited while I was in high school, and I saw the campus. If you never visited Logan, it's a beautiful campus, and I was just kind of struck by it. And luckily, I met a couple of professors and some people in administration that I really liked, and really, also really guided me through the process from the time I started undergrad into getting into chiropractic school. So
Yeah.
I didn't go anyplace else. I didn't look anyplace else. This was it.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do they have outreach programs like for communities while you're a student where you're able to go back, speak to other high school students, that kind of thing?
It's interesting you asked that because one of the things that I worked really hard with Logan on is helping them to create a program that did that. Because we have 13 high schools in St. Louis City, which is, an underserved community, not a
Mm,
lot of money in the community,
mm.
so not a lot of access to chiropractic. So they were just like me. They didn't know what chiropractic was, had no idea what it was. Well, that's the way it currently is. So we got together with Logan and we worked on a program that's actually about to start in about 2 or 3 trimesters where they will have students come out to the school and give them
Mm.
like a day where they'll get to see the school, talk to some other chiropractic students, talk to chiropractic students that look like them,
Yeah. Yeah.
learn about what chiropractic, which we know is a really, really important part of this entire process. It's in order for something to seem attainable, you have to see people that look like you. And that goes for anybody of any race or any background. You
Mm.
have to be able to relate to see that it's possible for yourself. So they'll be able to come and they'll get to meet students that are part of the student ABCA program, the organization SAPCA, and hang out with them, have lunch, and do all that, and just get exposed. Just get
Right.
exposed to chiropractic, so they know it's available to them. And that's
Mhm.
really what it's about. Not necessarily recruitment, but letting them know that the chiropractic is available to them as an option.
That's right. And
Yeah,
also at that level, I imagine then they would have access to your student clinic. So then they're able to even experience it, right? Prior to
exactly,
the, yeah.
exactly. Especially what we're seeing is like student athletes and stuff like that. And those are the things that chiropractic students we know love to work on, athletes. Those relationships can be built. And I think it'll overall just be a really, really good thing for the
Yeah.
school and for the kids.
Yeah. Amazing. So you had this wonderful experience. You worked with a great doctor. You decided on Logan. Now you're graduating. How did you know what to do with your practice options?
I did not know. I did not know is the real answer. One of the ways I was lucky early was I met a chiropractor in my area. And he's like, hey, man, I got some space in my office. If you want to come over and, just kind of start your own thing, and you can just rent space from me. That's throwing you into the fire.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
Deep end.
all I did was rent from him. He wasn't mentoring me or coaching me or anything like that. I just paid him rent every month. So I
Yeah.
bought my table and I had a room, and now what?
I have my flag.
Exactly.
I know where I am.
I got my business cards.
Exactly. Exactly.
So initially, I was just trying everything that I could come up with, because I've been in practice for 15, 14 years now. So all of that kind of old stuff, the fish bowls, and I would walk through the mall and hand my cards out to people, like whatever. Whatever
Yep.
I knew how to do, I would try. Not a lot of that was working.
Mhm.
Those aren't the most efficient strategies. But
They're a strategy.
yeah, that's exactly what they are, a strategy. So I built the practice up just a little bit.
Mhm.
And as my practice started to grow a little bit, I realized that independent contracting in
Mhm.
somebody else's office is not a
Mhm.
good fit for me.
Okay.
Just because I'm a very independent spirit
Mhm.
and I kind of like to be in charge,
Mhm.
especially of my own career, my own practice and direction. And he just practiced in a different manner than I wanted to practice.
How did that influence or affect you? Because technically, as an independent contractor, you're supposed to be able to do your own thing.
Mhm. Technically, right? You're
Yeah.
supposed to be able to do your own thing, but it's his office. So depending on who you get and who you end up, renting from, that really has a really large impact on it. So whether or not you can use their staff, there's a lot of little pieces to that. Where I didn't have any paperwork when I graduated, so there's all
Mhm.
this paperwork and X-rays, shooting X-rays. At that time, it was film. So like I said, staff was a really big part of all of this, using therapy equipment, stuff that I used to use at the
Mhm.
time. All of those things are just little small things. Me being in there, all these hours that he wasn't in there, because about the fifth month I was seeing more people than he was, and that
And
changed the
that becomes
dynamic.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So he wanted to have a discussion about raising the rent and things like that, and I was like, you know what, I gotta go. I gotta
Yeah.
go. So
So the
that's
reason
a good
I
lesson.
sneakily asked about that is I think there's a lot of misconception, new grad or new owners, right? People who've been
Mhm.
out for a while, but they were associates. Independent contractor doesn't equal owning your own practice.
No, it does
So
not.
yeah, that's why I kind of hinted at that.
No, it does not. Because owning your own practice is you are making your own rules. And that's not what being an independent contractor really is. In my opinion about independent contracting is it can be good as a springboard, but if you see it as more than that, then it'll be tough, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Or you have to be a really good match, I think, with the principal.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. So, okay, that was one potential challenge. What are some of the other things that you found coming out, starting on your own? It's pretty bold to know that you want to be on your own. Lots of people take the associateship route.
Right. I knew being an associate wasn't for me because I used to work at this place. It was called John D's West End Grill, right? When I was in high
Yeah.
school. And I washed dishes. And the guy who owned John D, the guy who, if you're watching this John D, I'm talking about you. John D, the guy who owned this restaurant, was like the meanest guy. And he used to yell at me, and like there was nothing I could do because I work for him. I work for
Mm,
him. It's his
mm,
rules. It's the way
mhm,
he wants it. However he tells me to do things is the way I'm supposed to do it. And it doesn't work well with my spirit
mm.
because it's his restaurant. And I can honor that it's his restaurant. I get to choose whether or not I want to work there. And having a couple jobs like that really taught me that that's not a good fit for me. It's not a good fit for me to, have a set of rules that I'm to follow that I had no input on creating.
No connection to.
So
Yeah,
exactly,
exactly.
exactly. So that's where the independent contract came from because I thought it was going to be truly independent. And then when I
Mhm.
found out it wasn't, it was closer to the other thing, to an associate. I knew that I just had to be on my own.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, starting on your own, you've taken that step, taken that leap. That's pretty bold as well. And although maybe being in your home area, what kind of challenges did you find with that, if any?
Yeah, a number of challenges. The same thing. I still didn't know what I was doing when I first opened my office, but I feel like I've always outworked my mistakes. Working hard has never been an issue for me. It's never been
Yeah.
a problem. So you can mess up a lot if you're willing to work hard. You can't really do that if you want the easy route. But if you're willing to keep working and keep trying things, and you can overcome those things. And that's
Mhm,
really what got me started in practice, was just getting out there. I remember I read a book, a manual about
mhm.
doing spinal screenings. I didn't even know what a spinal screening was, and I had graduated from chiropractic school. And
Okay. And you
and
graduated from Logan.
right, exactly. I really didn't know what a spinal screening was. And I read this little manual about spinal screenings, and I was like, I'm going to do this. And that's really what started my practice. It's really what
Mm-hmm.
got my practice going because I had to start fresh. I didn't take those people with me because I moved so far away from where I was. So I had to start fresh. And I did spinal screenings and spinal screenings and spinal screenings and spinal screenings,
And then some more.
and then some more. Exactly. In the heat, 100-degree weather in July with a shirt and tie on in the dusty park and just all of that stuff just to, talk to people, to get them to
Mm-hmm.
come and see me, to
Mm-hmm.
let them know I could help them. And I feel like that was my initiation, that
Mm-hmm.
time period, that first year I was in practice. And things changed a little bit by going into the end of my first year, into my second year, because I got a partner. So I opened, and towards the end of that first year, that's when I met my partner, Dr. Xavier Tippler. Not met him. I already knew him. We went to school together, but that's when we
Mm.
started. That's when we started to practice together. And that was an entirely different dynamic that really kind of broke things open for us because he wasn't real happy with his situation. And I was just working and he
Yeah.
wanted to get out of his situation. And I was like, come on, man, let's do this.
You're
And
like, I'm Dusty. Come on over.
yeah, exactly. Sweat with me.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah, so that's kind of that initial was a lot of hard work, but then him coming over, we just put our two heads together and
Mm.
got to work.
Yeah, amazing. So what sort of key procedures, systems, things did you guys sort of implement, find, or kind of build your practice around that really are your staples, like you couldn't live without them?
Oh man, shoot, that's a long list at this point. But there are really some real keys to where we are in practice now, which is a lot different than when we were in that first and second year. I mean, we've changed paperwork 20 times, 25
Yeah,
times,
right.
in
Yeah.
14 years. So we really didn't, it took a long time to really figure out how to run a practice. The first thing I would say is the structure and the order of things. Whatever your procedure is, however you do things, whatever your processes are, they need to be the same
Mm-hmm.
every single time a new practice member walks in your door. They need to be
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same because when you have structure to the way that you run your practice, it's infinitely easier on you and it's a lot easier on your staff. And
Yeah.
it's really, really easy to pick out the problems. When you have a structure, right? You know where the breakdowns are. You know exactly where to go. Something
Yeah.
didn't go right. If something's missing, you know where that piece should have been. So the first thing would really be the structure. Then you plug all that stuff into that structure, but having a structure and an order to things and not just kind of willy nilly. And this
Mhm.
person comes on this day and they kind of do that. And, just kind of have stuff all over the place is one of the things I really see as a big issue. I take a lot of pride in our order. The other thing that I think is really important is our day one process. I think is really important because for us, it's a relationship day for us.
Mhm.
That first day is so much more about building the relationship than it is about the examination. Because quite honestly, if someone comes in with sciatica,
Mm.
you kind of got it, right? You kind of got it. If somebody comes in with those regular top 3 or 4 things, you kind of got it. You kind of know what you're going to do, but that's not the point at that point. The point
Yeah.
is rapport building, engaging with that person, reassuring them of the process and what it is that you're going to be doing for them. All of
Mhm.
those things, building a relationship. And that starts with they make the phone call with your staff all the way through to the doctors that are working in the office. So the structure, I think, and that first contact is the
Yeah.
one thing that we stress a lot and we put a lot of energy into and a lot of time into because I feel like it's been key to our growth.
No, thank you for that. And I love that comment because I think now with everything being so digitalized and
Hmm.
so proficient with every other gadget possible,
Yep.
people can lose that touch point
Yep.
and or actually don't want it, right? Like, oh, I don't want to have to talk so much. I just
Easier.
want to like push them through or what have you. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's the thing that builds practices, lifetime practices, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that a lot of doctors, not like you said, with technology advancing the way it is, and not
Mhm.
only technology advancing, but society moving in a direction where we're just not as close, right? We
Mhm.
don't, we don't, as a whole, value interaction as much as we used to. So, and we talk about this a lot in our practice as well, and with some of our clients, is you want to be different than what their day looks like.
Yeah,
When they
I
come
love
into your practice, you want to be different than what their day looks like. And their day looks a lot like, white tile, sliding glass, people with attitudes, snatching your
that.
insurance card, white coats, grabbing the doorknob and walking out, before you barely get to say what what's going on with you. That's a mirror. That system is a mirror of what life looks like for most people all day long at their job and when they go to the grocery store and when they're in traffic. That's what their life looks like. You want to be a break from all of that. But whatever it is that you create, you want to create something that is distinct from what people's normal day is. I think that's really, really important because the value is in the care. But the value, what supercharges that or what takes that to the next level is the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that because I don't think we spend enough time thinking about that. When people talk in business terms of what makes you unique and what's your USB, and, a lot of times doctors or other practitioners will think, oh, I don't know what that means. Well, that's it right there. How are you making their day different?
Yep.
Why are you looking different to them so that they're like, I remember that place. That place I'm going to tell my friends about, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
If they came to you, yeah, no problem. If they came to you a decade ago, you want them to remember you when they see whatever, when they hear you on the radio or they see a commercial or do you want them to remember that experience from when they came to you a long time ago and say, hey, I went to that chiropractor 8 years ago and it was great. I don't know why I stopped going. But they won't do that if you just made their sciatica feel better. They won't do that. That won't happen.
No, definitely. And I think it's one of those things, and we talk a lot about that too. How can you be memorable to someone, regardless if they stay with you or not, right? The best referral to us is someone who comes in and they were referred by someone who was never actually even a patient.
Yes, right.
They just experienced us at an event or through a health talk, or maybe they came in only once for a consultation and that was it. But we made that much of an impression that they were able to come back or send people our way, right?
Yeah. You want to be their chiropractor, whether they're getting chiropractic care or not.
Yes,
exactly. You want to be their chiropractor. So when the day comes that, like you said, they want to refer someone, or the day comes that they feel like they need a chiropractor, you are their choice.
Yeah.
So when you speak to a church group of, 50 people and 15 of those people come into your practice, that's great. But you want the other 35 to also be your practice members. They're just inactive right now.
Yeah, they're ambassadors.
They're ambassadors. Exactly. There you go. Right.
Yeah. So what is the one thing maybe through practice years that really surprised you that you weren't either hadn't thought of or really weren't prepared for?
The relationship part was definitely one of those because that's just not something you really get in chiropractic school. I don't know if it's ever discussed even once, but the relationship and the rapport thing was something that I embraced, but was a surprise to me, and how important it was and how important it was to me, how much I needed it when I go into my practice every day, because I'm the only one that's there every single day. I also need to get fed in some way. So those interactions really help with that. That was really one thing that was a surprise to me. I think the other thing that was genuinely was really a surprise to me was that the African American community had no idea what chiropractic was in general at any significant level, other than, and any knowledge was based on something like an auto accident. And it really surprised me to what degree. You were a little weird, a little bit different if you went to a chiropractor for anything other than a car accident.
Right.
And I like to think that we're really digging in and trying to make some of that change so that they really understand what it is we do.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. So you mentioned something that's really important. And I think a lot of people don't realize also before you enter practice, this idea that you're the one that goes every day. And not all of us have partners. So most of us are solo practitioners or alone.
Yep.
So what resources or what things did you do to keep your head in the game?
I will tell you the first thing is to make the practice that you want, not what you think people want. I think that's really important because, again, you're going there every day. So you want it to be a place that brings you some peace, some joy, some satisfaction. I always tell people, if you really, really want to practice barefoot, then you should practice barefoot. If you really, if it's really in your heart, in shorts and a Hawaiian shirt every single day, then that's how you should practice, because, there will be people that are attracted to whatever style you create. So create the style that you want, because the happier you are in your practice, the better chance you have of being successful. Period. There's no one cookie cutter. There's no one size fits all. There's no supposed to in chiropractic. That's the part I really, really enjoy. So I would tell people to really keep an eye on that part, right? Is, if there's a certain type of music, that appropriate music, obviously, but if there's a certain type of music that you really enjoy, if you're a jazz person, play jazz. If you love soul music, then play soul music. If your color is yellow, paint some yellow on the wall. So I think those things are really important
Yeah.
because they keep you going. And you
Yeah.
want to continue to tweak that as you get older and you get farther into practice and continue to make it yours all the time. Don't ever let it get stale. I think that's really, really one of those things that can really keep you going. The other thing is your why. Why are you doing it? For whatever reason that is, and I'm not a judge of what someone's why is for being in practice because we all have different reasons for it. Make sure that you are fulfilling that. And and in all honesty, if your goal and your why is about making money, please make sure that you're creating a practice that's making a lot of money, or you won't be happy. Why?
Right.
If your why is serving people at a high level, then make sure that you've created systems and procedures and structured your office and built it in a way that can serve at a high level. If you want to see 5 people a day, that's great. That's great for chiropractic. Then put together systems and create a system in which you can see 5 people a day and still have dinner,
Yeah.
right? Still be able to survive. So, create what works for you.
And I guess be open to the fact that that's going to change over time too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So our practice is so different than it was when we started.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be flexible. I speak with a lot of doctors, and that's, I think, where some of that turmoil or that tension comes from is when they've grown, but the practice is reflective of who they were maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, it's not okay to change it, right? And that's their inner turmoil. So
Yep.
yeah, to be flexible to that.
I think that's where growth happens. Is
Mhm.
when you do make those changes. Because again, it's about the energy that you're putting into it, right? If
Yeah.
it's something that you don't recognize anymore, or something that you don't feel like speaks to you every single day, then you're going to be more tired in the morning when you're headed into
Yeah.
the office, right? Which means less
Exactly.
communication with your practice members, which means less heartfelt interactions with your practice members. And those are the things that make a practice special. So you really, like you said, you kind of have to really keep your eye on those things.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to enter into this conversation a little bit about diversity and inclusion in our
Yes.
profession and get
Words,
your
some
thoughts on
buzzwords.
that.
I got a lot of thoughts on that.
Yeah, I
So
know.
yeah, I do. And really, the one thing that I value these days is really engaging at every single level in the conversation. So I can have a conversation with someone who 100% agrees with me. I can also have a conversation who agrees with me 0%. And I think those are the conversations that are really important today because I feel like my point of view is important. And whoever I'm speaking to, I feel like their point of view is important because it gives you information that you didn't previously have. It gives you information and it helps you to grow your knowledge base. It helps you to grow in your understanding. And it also helps you to grow in your argument, right? It helps you to test what it is that you believe when you listen
Right.
to somebody else who has different beliefs. And I find that people who don't want to engage in those conversations, it's because deep down they understand that their positions
Might not
um
be different.
exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what I was looking for. They may not have good reason, right, for what
Yeah.
it is they believe. So, as far as diversity and inclusion and what's going on today, I think that the conversation is the most important part. Being
Yeah.
able to have conversations. People, my friends, my real friends, I'm not talking about my Facebook friends. My real friends ask me all the time how I'm Facebook friends with certain people, right?
Oh,
With
okay.
certain
Yeah.
people with certain beliefs and why I engage with them when I post something that they don't like. I'll post something that
Mhm.
they don't like and of course, the comments start coming. And I
Yeah.
engage with those folks. And what I always tell them is the main reason that I engage with those folks on Facebook is not for them. It's
Mhm.
for the other people reading the
Yes.
conversation or the debate. Because there are people who don't have all the information and want it. There are
Mm.
people who are undecided about their beliefs and their positions, right? There are people who are silent about their beliefs because they don't know how to express them. So maybe
Right.
by reading this interaction, it arms them with some information that makes them a little more brave to have the discussion. Because again, it goes back to I think those discussions are really, really important. So I think that's where the real growth is going to happen in the end
Mhm.
is everybody, even people who totally disagree with where many of us stand, will at least know what the position is. They'll understand the position. That's the important part.
Yeah, I love that idea that at times for all of us, we come to conclusions and we don't know why. We just have an opinion on something. And, could have been our mother, father, grandmother, right? But if you're not even challenging what your own thoughts are, how do you grow yourself, right? So sometimes these conversations can lead to us really going, yeah, okay, I'm spot on with where I'm at and I'm comfortable with that. Or other
Mm-hmm.
times thinking, gosh, I had no clue. I just thought that. I don't even know where it came from. Right. So
You're like,
yeah,
maybe I
or
should
that feeling.
reevaluate that. Right. Yep. I definitely have
Absolutely.
those. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting for us speaking with another Dr. African American gentleman in Holland. And for
Mhm.
those of us overseas, it's just that level different as well. Conversations there, but it's fully there. It's not hidden. People are blunt in certain
Yeah.
cultures. They
Yeah.
have no qualms. The conversation's there. So
Mhm.
sometimes, and I never would have thought America was politically correct, but sometimes it is very politically
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, and it's beautiful here because it's educational. I've had to explain to my staff. I remember when Rosa Parks died and she was all over the papers, and to them, she's not Black because they're used to Africans from Nigeria.
Yeah.
So they would never look at Rosa Parks and think she's Black. So they couldn't
Ah.
understand why she was so important, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's all about your experience, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just glad the conversation's there
Yeah.
and, not being shy and not being, I have an opinion, but I'm going to be quiet because I don't want to ruffle feathers.
And I think that's the one thing that has to grow. It's the silent majority. It's really what it is because I believe that most people hold these principles, right, of
Yeah,
equality. Most people. But the problem is so many of those people are silent. When there's not a minority in the room and conversations are being had that wouldn't be had if a minority was in the room, those people who
right.
disagree with that just don't speak up. And I'm hoping that everything that's happening nowadays will begin to give them a little more bravery, right? Arm them with some information, with the tools that they need in order to jump into that conversation, but also to let those people know that they are actually the minority. Because right now, to all of us, they look like the majority of thought. Quite frankly, makes minorities, African Americans, angry because it feels like the majority thought when
Mhm.
we know it's really not, but they're in charge.
Yeah.
So if they're
Well,
in
and
charge,
the loudest aren't always the most in number. They're just loud.
exactly, they're just loud. Exactly.
Wow, amazing. Oh, it's been such a pleasure to have you today.
Oh, thank
And
you.
this could go on for hours. So we may have to have you back again.
I would love to. You let me know when. I'll be there.
Definitely. So,
Yeah.
what are some parting thoughts that you may have, either for students or
Mhm.
doctors new in practice, that you'd love to share?
For students, I would say that get engaged in chiropractic. Your chiropractic school is great for your basic knowledge, for science, for understanding physiology and how chiropractic works. But chiropractic in the real world happens in the real world. So you have to get
Mm,
out into the real world in order to really understand it. Because trust me, if you haven't gotten out into the real world, then you have no clue. You don't know how it works. You just don't because it doesn't happen in chiropractic school. Chiropractic school has its role in its position. But there are many practicing chiropractors out there that would love to teach you some of the real world stuff. So I'd say for students to really get out and engage. And for doctors, I would really say go after the practice of your dreams and don't settle.
mm,
And sometimes that requires, making that extra trip to that conference that you really don't want to go to. Sometimes that means spending that money on that thing or that idea that you really didn't want to. That means getting a coach that already has all the answers that you're searching for, not rebuilding something that's been built, 100 times, 1,000 times over, which is what we did. We got really good coaching. So really for doctors, I would say, man, just live the way you want to live. Experience chiropractic the way you want to experience chiropractic, and don't
mm.
settle for anything else.
Yeah. And that's your USB right there. If you're living chiropractic and experiencing it through what gives you passion, that
Mhm.
makes you different.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
that's it right
Yeah.
there. That's it. It's
Yeah.
you. It's you.
It's you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you watching, let us know if you're live or if you're on the replay. And definitely we'll include some information for Dr. Edgar for those of you that want to reach out. But thank you again for joining us. We look forward to your conference.
Thank you so much. We're excited about it. October 23rd, 24th, St. Louis, Missouri. So if you haven't registered, it's at evokechiropractic.com. You can
Yes, and
hop
we'll put
on
that in.
there. Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone else, take care and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Confident Chiropractor. There is a lot of rich content here. Take what you need and leave the rest behind. And please remember to rate and review.